Alors, pour ceux et celles qui se joindront à nous aujourd'hui, bonjour.
Hello to everyone who is joining us just now. My name is Hugo Lapointe. There is interpretation available today in different languages. You can access this at the bottom of your screen. You can select the language of your choice. You should be able to see interpreting.
Great speakers and all of you to this important webinar for a piece of work that Mining Watch Canada, EG Atlas, in collaboration with 25 communities of the Americas have put together over the last year. According to the World Bank and the International Energy Association, the planet, societies would need up to 3 billion tons of minerals and metals over the coming decades to assist the energy transition technologies. Batteries for electric vehicles, wind, solar power. This energy transition has social and environmental impacts related to the extraction of those minerals in different countries, different territories, indigenous and non-indigenous, throughout the Americas and in fact throughout the planet. But today we are lucky to have presentations from different parts of the continent throughout the Americas that will speak with us, that will present their respective realities on the ground of what this mining for the energy transition means for them. But first, please let us welcome Mariana Walker, joining us from Barcelona, Spain, as well as Yannick Deniau, joining us today from Mexico, but originally from France. They're both part of the EG Atlas team, the Environmental Justice Atlas team. Mariana Walker is a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute of Environmental Science and Technology at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. And Yannick holds a master's degree in geography at the University of Grenoble, France. And they both work for the Environmental Justice Project. Yannick, Mariana, welcome and thank you for joining us. You, together with us over the last year and the communities on the ground, have put together a great report and a great interactive map that is being launched today officially. Mariana, can you present us the report and map to you, Mariana?
Yes, I then will go on. Thank you, Hugo, for the presentation. Gracias a todos y todas por estar aquí.
Thank you to everyone for being here today. I'm going to continue with my presentation in Spanish. Yes, my name is Mariana Walter. I am a researcher with the Institute of Environmental Science and Technology from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and I'm here with Yannick Deniau, also a member of the Atlas team. So today we would like to be presenting to you this collaborative work and the report that has come out of it, what Hugo just mentioned. So over the past year, we have indeed been working with communities, different groups, organizations, researchers in a collaborative effort to raise awareness around the unsustainability and social injustice of all of the mining that is going on in Latin America and also throughout the world. But today I'm going to be focusing on Latin America. So today we are going to be sharing a report based on this collaborative work that was carried out, and we documented 25 different cases of a mining conflict and focused on 3 different minerals: copper, lithium, and copper, lithium, and one other mineral that unfortunately the interpreter missed, but these are the commonly used minerals and commonly mined minerals in Latin America. As part of this collaborative work, we wanted to raise awareness around the sort of trickery and the lies behind the whole greenwashing movement. I wanted to share with you a couple of aspects from the collaborative process, and that third mineral was graphite. We would like to start by thanking the different groups that helped us and allowed us to carry out all of this work. So we have a list of all of these organizations here on the slide. These are organizations from Quebec, from elsewhere in Canada, the United States, Mexico, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Panama, Mexico. There are many different countries that we could have worked with, but that was not possible in this first step of our mapping project for mapping mining conflicts across the continent. And now you can see here the list of contents, the table of contents. And I would just like to say that this is currently available in Spanish, and we hope that over the coming weeks we will be able to share a version translated at least into English so that it can be shared in other countries. But for the time being, you can access the report in Spanish. I would like to just quickly go over some of the main contents of this report. So first of all, we would like to share this the list of the main minerals and elements, which you can see on the slide here along the bottom. And so we looked at these elements in particular, and here you have different projections that come from the World Bank and the International Energy Agency. And this shows the exploding demand for different metals and minerals that will be needed for the electric transition, so the shift to electric cars and renewable energies and so on. The World Bank estimates that if we continue with this current transition to electrical energy, we would need 3 billion tons of minerals and metals in order to power this energy transition. So here in the graph, you can see the shift from 2020 to 2040. So this is the first part of the report. And in the second part of the report, we analyzed the 25 different cases that we studied collaboratively and that look into the different environmental impacts of the energy transition. So what happens in fragile and protected areas and key biodiversity regions, impacts on water, pollution, impacts on livelihood and on heritage sites, important religious sites for the communities that are affected by this. We also highlight the lack of information and the lack of participation, the lack of consultation with communities as well on the part of the advocates of these projects and those who are running these projects. The last part of the report we also used to document the different types of discourse around green mining. And so we talk about what we see in these different 25 cases in the report that we looked at. So issues of ethics and the type of information that is being shared by governments and what false information is behind them. So we will have people here today to be able to share more with us about what is really happening on the ground. We also wanted to point out that it doesn't necessarily just have to do with the individual impact of these projects. It is the cumulative effect of all of these projects, not just on specific communities, but on ecosystems around the world, and some places that act as important ecosystems that really control how the environment functions. And we will be going shortly to Yannick, who is going to be taking us through the map and sharing with us the different projects that we analyzed. The map that we are showing to you today is only the beginning. It's the beginning of a mapping project that we want to take to a global level and and a map that will be able to show us different kinds of struggles. So we have different projects here that show us what sort of costs we are dealing with. We want to look at, we want to ask the right questions. Who and for what purpose is this mining being done? And we want to be able to imagine a different and better kind of world. So we will very much be appreciating your contributions to the discussion, and I will send the floor over to Yannick now to carry things on. Thank you. Thank you, Mariana. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all hear me?
Oui.
Ya, creo que ya se está compartiendo en la pantalla. Ya, creo que sí. Pues para acceder al mapa, voy a quitar eso. Para acceder a este mapa interactivo.
So in order to see this interactive map that Mariana just told you about, and we will give you the link in the chat so that you can get to it, and also at the website, so ejatlas.com, you should be able to find it that way. And then along the menu on the right hand side, or rather that's ejatlas.org, you'll be able to see all of the different projects in the menu, and then you can select the one that you would like to learn more about. So if we click, then it will open up this map, and you will see that, of course, there are more than 25 points, because in the end, this interactive map shows the 25 zones of or conflict zones that we analyzed, of course, across the continents. But on top of that, we also included in this map other cases that were previously documented, especially when we looked at certain cases that are particularly important. We wanted to include them. And so in the end, the result that we have is something quite a lot more broad than just the cases that we specifically looked at. It's quite simple. You can zoom in. If you see blue points, that's lithium, orange is copper, green is graphite and other minerals, and red is nickel. If you click on a specific case, will be showing us shortly a little bit more about this, but for now, you'll see that you can access a description, and then you can open it up to see the entire information sheet. And then you can see all kinds of different information about the project, about the impact, the discourse around it, what is the mining company saying about this particular project. And then also we see, the contrast, of course, between that discourse and what is actually happening. And you have information that come from the people living in those regions and those who are affected. You can access the information in different languages. You can see on the left here. So it will show up in English first, but you, of course, can click on French, for example. This is happening in Quebec, and so we've got the information in French as well. That's how all of the cases work in this interactive map. And there's always a series of information plus the report itself. So you can click on that link to access the whole report on it. And then we've got everything once again in the different languages here. Here we have English, French, and Spanish. And then we also have a legend, and that will open up different cartographic information. So for example, things that come up in the report, here we have Ramsar sites. So we have, for example, the proximity to certain sites of important water sites, so Ramsar sites, for example, waters, or rather areas that have different environmental importance. How close is the project to them? You get to see that comparison, basically. And then another example, you know, is it near a protected area or so on?
Esos casos también se encuentran ya en zonas
And we see that many of those cases are in zones that are in a very stressful situation, so that the idea of being able to complete it with other layers of cartography, and so that also to complete, as Mariana said, with documentation of new cases. Unfortunately, the situation is much more concerning, and there are many more conflicts, and so that we hope that we'll be able to continue with this initiative in a collaborative way, so that we can continue this map of the Americas. But at some point, we would like to register what is happening in other continents where there is other new impacts and concerning situations for the extraction of these same minerals or other minerals. So that I'm going to stop here to allow our other speakers, and so that be able to show very well the question within energy, which is hierarchical, just trying to make this transition, which is dominated by the major corporation and mining companies, and this contradiction because of environmental and social impacts when we're trying to solve an environmental problem. And rather than going on with this, I will end here to turn the floor over to our other speakers.
Thank you, Yannick. Thank you, Mariana. Congratulations on this important work. Before we go on to our next speaker, I would like to invite all participants to share questions that they may have in the Q&A section. And I would like to invite our panelists today to feel free to go in this Q&A section and provide written answers if you want. We don't need to wait until the end of the presentation to start answering some of the questions. I do also retain an important message from Mariana and Yannick that this work is representing a sample of 25 cases that are in the report. It's important to understand that there are many more cases, as it was mentioned. And forward, AG Atlas and other communities and partners will continue to document more cases. So thank you again, Mariana and Yannick, for this work. Our next speaker, I don't know if Val could put her on the screen, and May, you may turn on your camera if you can. There you go. Our next speaker is May Dagher. May Dagher has a degree, or degrees, I should say, plural, in literature and business administration. She was most recently a director of the Quebec Association of Pediatricians, a position she held for over 18 years. May is one of the spokespersons for the Citizens Coalition opposed to the Nouveau Monde Graphite project in the Lac Taureau Regional Park watershed in Quebec, Canada. It's a group that represents more than 100 families, residents, cottagers, and workers in the region. May, welcome, and the floor is yours to do your presentation.
Bonjour, je me présente May Dagher.
My name is May Dagher, member of the administrative committee of the coalition of those that oppose the Nouveau Monde Graphite and McKinney, and I, Dmitri is here with me, who will be answer your questions later on. But just before I start, I would just like to mention that this coalition of the opponents to the mining projects was created in 2013. It puts together citizens from different sectors of the Minnesota Saint-Michel des Clans, so that the objective of opposing the mining projects to be able to preserve the true nature of Saint-Michel des Clans. What we would like to do today is to testify of what we are experiencing concretely in the field with the sustainable destruction, an ongoing destruction, which is happening. So that before we go on, I'd like to have a disclaimer. The opinions presented here are not necessarily representative of the opinions or viewpoints of the associations, employers, or the workplaces of the members of the administrative committee of the COPH. So the next slide, we come into the actual pith of the subject. What is the real environmental price for our Tesla-style battery? If we take an example of the Model S, according to the data obtained by MindWatch Canada, to create this would need 73 kilograms of graphite, so that the miner would create mining waste of 4.8 tons, wastewaters of 1,222 liters, and green gas emissions of 0.4 tons of CO2. So where does the graphite come from? The graphite comes from the biggest open air mine in the south of Quebec, the first in the 180 kilometers from Montreal, and less than 2 hours away from Montreal. It is situated in the National Park of Mont-Tremblant, between rather the Mont-Tremblant National Park and the Regional Park of Lac Taureau, a vacation area in a very fragile ecosystem, a very sensitive environment, a recreation and tourism area, which is well known both nationally and internationally well known. Next slide.
Qu'est-ce que le projet Matawinie de Nouveau?
What does a Matawinie Nouveau Monde Graphite? It is a pit that is 2.7 kilometers long, 430 meters wide, and 240 meters deep. And as waste, it creates they could have 4 million tons per year, more than 100 million tons over 25 years. And in terms of its graphite production, there's only 100,000 tons a year, and of these 100,000 tons, only 42,000 tons a year for electric car anodes. Next slide. What is the strategy that Nouveau Monde Graphite has used to be able to sell this project, which finally will be in tourism and sensitive area in order to gild so that they present it as being a sustainable project one that is responsible to being clean and green. That is a fully electric mine. And so Nouveau Monde Graphite is boasts of respecting the environmental criteria, social criteria, and good governance principles, so that we're repeating the same message, whether it be at the level of the companies that might be interested, for the government, and for citizens as like ourselves, and the message eventually goes through. So this is a PR campaign which is very well handled and with constant and intelligent propaganda, basically pure propaganda. And unfortunately, what are the facts? We're very far from responsible extractivism. And this is something that is deceiving the population. There's a lack of transparency on real impacts. And so that this goes completely opposed to the criteria of where parts of sustainable destruction, deforestation, and so that pollution of the environment, the pollution of the waters of the area, of the lakes in particular, and so that there's nothing positive that can come out of this project as it is presented and currently. And they use a methodology of co-availability, whose the proof of viability has not been made, a methodology that doesn't actually exist, at least in our climate. And Nouveau Monde Graphite continues to mention that it's a clean project, and there are major doubts that have arisen, and the message that continues to go through as if it's saying that it's a green project. I'm going to show you a little video that shows you there's a strong odor of sulfur coming from the phase of the project. From phase 1, and the smell of sulfur. And this is a territory that is covered and that has been deforestation has been started, and the water from the wells that is used for the mine and the impact at Lac aux Pierres, which is huge. The neighboring and other wetlands will be impacted. We expect to have a flow of 466 cubic meters per day. Imagine that this mine put onto Mount Royal Park, and as much as you see here, it would cover the whole park, the whole surface, and also it would cover a great part of the surface of Central Park. So what are the environmental issues that are ahead of us? If we go to the next slide. I'm going to go without the slides. There seems to be a problem with this. No, that's not the right slide. Here we are. So what are the environmental issues? There are a number of them. Water contamination, which is probably forever. We're talking about surface waters and also aquifer. We're talking about mining waste, a huge environmental to go on, a loss of biodiversity, the equivalent of 100 million tons of mining waste, a part of which is generates acidity, and so that this is going to, if the co-disposition method is not approved, that we're going to have a contaminant of the Matawinie River, and will end up in Toro Lake. the loss of biodiversity. We talk about noise, of trucking, fine particles, and a considerable increase in greenhouse gases, which allows us to think that they have not shown that they are electric during the audiences in 2020. The hearings in 20, they were there for the whole of 25, because they were supposed to talk with Green, but not social division, rather that the promoter has 86% of acceptance of the project, which is completely false. This is 50% of the population was not consulted during the survey. 50% of the population that are against this project, the indigenous nations, that we are for another aspect of the Manawan Atikamekw population. They were never printed. Although the promoter says he has an agreement with the Atikamekw nation, which is false, according to the Atikamekw Council, as presented in the last few months. Impacts on health, very high, as risks in terms of mental health, which has already begun, and also at levels of physical health problems, including to lung problems, governance issues. The main shareholder, Nouveau Graphite, is Pallinghurst Group, which is associated to a number of entities in tax shelter in order to so much such as the Cayman Islands and others lobbying. There is a process that is going on. There's a series of greening strategies, as we reported before, and negligence of the recognitions of the BAP, which is the Environmental Protection entity. And so in February 2021, they emitted a decree for authorizing in a hidden fashion, without obtaining previously the additional studies that were required, if not demanded, before any by the BAB, and which deals directly with environmental issues such as co-disposition. The fact that the mine is not being demonstrated to be fully electric, very important. And the government has been ignoring this. This is total deception. And so the dream is sustainable, clean energy, responsible minerals, and an electric miner. What we have are mining waste, sustainable destruction, social impacts, and which has begun already with people who are leaving distress or anxiety, and people who are talking about dynamiting. This is real. It's something that's already started, and about greening, environmental greening, and which is a thing that is supposed to be so green that some people end up believing it. So there are any solutions to this sustainable destruction? Yes, there are. If we have the courage to take the decision to go forward on this, such as reducing consumption at the source, one of the 5 conditions, so that the electrification of transportation will have a better mining. And so this is something that they're going to do, to reconsider the legislation on mines, and those territories are incompatible with mining activities, to be able to control this industry better. Remember that this is the first time in the history of Quebec where we find in a tourist and sensitive with dynamiting and a pit, and the things that will go on forever, and to create a political for responsible consumption and production of strategic minerals. If the government wants to go head towards electrification of transportation, as citizens, we are not experts, we are only citizens. But these are possible solutions that we as citizens ask the government to established in order to diminish the mining impacts of the energy transition. It's extremely important. This is an example that can prove or show improvement at this level. We hope so. We wish so. And well, so thank you very much, May.
I don't know, Val, if you could cue in Gary on the screen. Thank you. Our next guest speaker from Nevada is Gary McKinney from the Western Shoshone-Northern Paiute Nation, member of the Northeastern Nevada people of Red Mountain, affected by the Lithium Americas Thacker Pass project. Very close, in fact, to the Tesla car mega factory. But before we hear Gary, let's see a video that he wanted us to project for you all today.
Biggest problem is we look at today, we look at ourselves. Yeah, we're comfortable. Yeah, we still got water, but what's it going to be like in the future? Nobody can really say what's going to happen with that water.
I don't think there's enough tests on the toxins that they're adding to retrieve the precious metals. I don't think that people fully are aware of what's going to happen year after year, or 20 years, or 100 years, or 50 years from now, as to what trouble that's going to bring them. The land, to me, is still 26 million acres of Nevada land still belongs to Western Shoshone people. That treaty has never been taken away. Understand the native people. Give us a chance. We're not trying to chop your head off. We're trying to do things right to protect what we have left of our sites.
You know, where we're headed now to Nouveau, that these issues were raised. They were brought up by a lot of bands, and God's group took it to court. But where did we end up? But everybody knows as soon as mining's done, this is the remnants. This is what they leave behind.
There it is. So Gary, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me this space. It's an honor to be sitting here among you guys, and I'm here to shed a little light on behalf of the people of Red Mountain, Atsa Kudakwa Winuwu. That's our tribal name, our tribal historical name known among our tribes and our bands. Out here in northern Nevada, we're facing off with the lithium mine project that was rushed through. The EIS, which is the environmental impact statement, was rushed through in a process that should be 4 to 5 years. It took them less than a year to compile enough research that they claim is enough to move forward with this project. And here we are. Along the way, we ran into things like a historical site. We are asking for recognition with our massacre site because we are descendants of one of the gentlemen that escaped from that. He got out of the massacre alive, the lone adult survivor. So along the way, he rode to these different places, and now these places are under these lands are under attack with uranium test drilling, with lithium test drilling, with this lithium mine. Thacker Pass will be the biggest lithium mine in the area, in the country, possibly the world. And here we are. We're trying to fight for our culture, fight for our history, and ensure that our children have a good future. We bring it to a large scale, and a along with this COVID pandemic. COVID, as we all know, is a respiratory illness. It's a virus that it's not easy to go away in your lungs. Once it's in your lungs, it may stay there. There's no conclusive test to say that this virus, COVID-19, is going to go away in the next 5, 10, 50 years. And so playing in part of our opposition, we're letting people know that this COVID virus, we're going to need this clean air. We need this clean air if we want to be living without masks covering our faces. We need to be aware that we're leaving this big scar on this earth for our children, for our next generations to come that aren't here yet, our grandchildren. So we speak to honor our ancestors, those that are in our history, that have passed, that have made it known that our people are still here to defend the land and to make sure that we have clean water and clean air. And now we're up against these jobs that make money, profits. This green energy format that they have is not green, because these are the people, the companies and corporations that don't see the forest for the trees. They see what they want to clear everything out so that they could get underneath that ground and extract whatever they want. That's public lands. They do that. They get their claims out there. And so we have this general mining law of 1872, and a lot of people can agree to this, that it needs to be done away with or abolished, or it needs to be worked on, because 1872 here in America was around the year of the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant had in mind donkeys, pickaxes, and shovels. They were mining with donkeys, and there's pictures out there. You can Google it. And here we are. This lithium project is being dictated by that same 1872 mining law. And here it's a transition between green energy. This is 1872, before light bulbs, before electricity. It's dictating how we want to go about electric vehicles, lithium batteries. Those are all electrical. So you see that contradiction and that contrast, where we obviously need to start coming together to make a change. And our smaller communities, especially our indigenous communities, we have been through this historical trauma. And this lithium mining project here on our homelands, it's not the only reason for us being defensive with our land. It only adds to the big picture with us, and it's not known to everybody. Just like our struggles here throughout the summertime, we see smoke. The visibility is so low you can't see a mile in front of you because there's so much smoke. And this happens every year. It's getting thicker and thicker every year. You look up at noon and the sun will be red, and that's the type of air quality that we have to deal with on this side of the map of America, the United States. We call it Turtle Island. So we're sitting here on this west side of the map, dealing with these fires, dealing with the water shortages, and the people that's in power, that's playing a big hand on these mining projects. They don't see that. They don't smell the smoke. They don't see the smoke. It literally looks like it's snowing in the middle of summertime because the ash is coming down from the sky, and it's all around us. And this is Northern Nevada, where this mining project is going to be. And I've said this in front of the NDEP folks that were operating over there in Washington, D.C., that we need to take care of this land, Mother Earth, because she has everything that we need to sustain ourselves: water, air, food, medicines. We have all that here. And it's hard to make that correlation, that connection between us and other people, because it's not known. We've had a gag order on us for so long now, and now this transition between green energy is a catalyst for a lot of our indigenous brothers, sisters, our relatives out there, like line 3, there's Protect Hockamway. There's a lithium mine in Arizona on Hualapai. It's a indigenous tribe. They're going through the same process as we are. Sacred sites going down, being sacrificed in the name of lithium. And here we are, nobody's saying, what we have to go through for you to have your cell phone, for them to have to be driving around with a Tesla. It's literally, the way that we see it, literally mining. It's a water mining project, mining water at 50,000 gallons of water per metric ton of lithium. Where are we going to get all that water from where we are? It's practically a desert out there, and people do their research. That's where lithium can be found, in desert regions. But the biodiversity there is still thriving. If you water the ground over there, there's going to be grass growing. And they plan to erase all that, along with our cultural sites, burial sites. There's things like as small as arrowheads, but there's things as helpful to us like medicines that have been helping us through this COVID pandemic, because we don't really depend on Western medicines to fix ourselves. We're the people that were here before Christopher Columbus that had it figured out. We had these medicines. We were one with this earth out here, and to disregard the animals, the human life, the birds, all of us, to disregard all of us in the name of profit, to hide all of it under the title of green energy is not right. It's not fair. That 1872 mining law right here in America should be the first thing that changes when it comes down to consultation with us Native Americans and a big money making corporation like Lithium America. To us, this land matters. We see the trees, the forests for the trees. There is a lot of life back there. There's these mountains and it's beautiful. Why should we put a big hole in the ground in exchange for that, so that people elsewhere can get that lithium? In the truest sense, in the most truest sense, we are the ones sacrificing our culture, our history, and they're not believing us when they ask us about our stories. We're facing with a federal court that has never been on our side to begin with. 1872 mining law will bring it okays the paperwork. It aligns paperwork so that we're secondary to that paperwork, and they push it, and it's because we don't have that type of money. We don't have those kinds of resources yet to fight for our land, to preserve our land, to put what we can to, like, there's massacre sites out here in America that have protection orders on it. Like, it would be, if we have a protection order on it, that would be the same as us going over to Arlington Cemetery and putting a shovel in the ground. That would be one and the same. But we're the people that don't see that. We don't do that. We don't want to do that. We don't take that disrespect, because we're out here living it for free. We're not going to work at 8 o'clock being paid to stay there until 5 to make problems for people like us, like some of us out there I've been hearing, and that needs to change also. And this is a good way to really be interactive with, because we should all be looking at our lands as our homes. I'll say one more thing, like we really, I personally believe it like this. We are caretakers of this Mother Earth. This would be like any mining, let's say any kind of mining project out there, we would have to consider ourselves going into somebody else's home and destroying things, putting things where they don't belong, breaking glass, writing on the walls, breaking things and wrecking the whole house just in general. And then we leave, but we lock the door. that it's the same thing. We don't like to do that. We don't want to do that, but we're finding ourselves in a justice system that will literally protect things like that. And these smaller groups underneath them that claim to mitigate will only soften the blow. But you can't put a price on our culture. You can't put a price on our artifacts, our oral history. It's not for sale. It's not for sale. We don't want to be disrespected, and we want all of our people, because we're pro people. We're pro environment. We're pro people. We want to see our youth and our kids away from cell phones, outside playing, building relationships, dancing, singing, having fun, learning, experiencing life, so that they may get old and reflect back on it. They can be a good elder and teach their young ones and their young ones, and so on and so forth. That's what our, that's what our protection of our homelands is really about. And that's all I want to leave here with this time and this space here. We're out here. We're a small tribe. We're not like the Lakota. We're not like the Sioux. We're not big in numbers. We're small, but we are mighty, and we know our history. We have been learning our oral traditions since the day we're old enough to learn. And a lot of misconception will be that our reservations where we are we don't hold water, but to us, our history says a lot more. That we were all walking on the same trail. We were all hunting in the same ways on the same lands, but at different times. And it's only until this colonization of America happened that was forced upon us. Then boarding schools happen, and then these historical trauma events start happening. And so now our elders wish to have our lands preserved, and that's the way that that us as young ones will honor that, for our medicines, for our water, for our air, for our people. That's the fight that we're out here in northern Nevada. The Thacker Pass lithium mining project is not green. You could find me anywhere on Facebook. I'm out there. Please continue to support us. Yeah, I do believe that that I have said everything that I need to say for now. I appreciate everybody for coming in, listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for your testimony. You don't see the chat maybe, but there's a lot of thank yous and support coming out. By the way, anybody feel free to share some comments and questions in chat, or even better in the Q&A section for your questions. And feel free to introduce yourself wherever you're coming from today, tonight. Tell us where you are, what you're working on. So for our next two speakers, I'll first introduce my colleague, Viviana Herrera, who's the Latin Program Coordinator interim for Mining Watch Canada. And so Viviana, I'll let you introduce our next guest speakers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hugo, and thank you to all the panelists, and May and Gary. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's joining us across the Americas, literally from Argentina all the way to Canada. And speaking of Argentina, in this second half of the webinar, we're going to be speaking with two spokespersons from two different movements in Argentina and Chile, who've been leading the way in terms of pushing back against lithium and copper mining for the energy transition. So, but before we introduce our next speaker from Argentina, we would like to show you a very short video clip. It's actually a trailer of In the Name of Lithium. So take a look.
The salt flat is very important to us because it is our mother and it is part of our family. Water is the blood of Mother Earth. The amount of water needed for lithium extraction is not here. Our mother cannot be broken, destroyed, or sold.
This is the biggest crisis humanity has ever faced.
Climate change. Climate change.
El gran problema de las energías renovables es que son intermitentes.
The big problem with renewable energies is that they are intermittent.
Es fundamental.
Essentially batteries.
From this point of view, lithium battery storage is essential. Salt flats have lithium. It's the most profitable and the easiest to mine.
Hay concesiones mineras sobre casi toda la puna argentina.
Millions of liters of water evaporating in the desert. There are mining concessions on almost the entire puna in Argentina.
Sacrificio, ¿no?
El gobierno tiene una deuda con nosotros.
Si el gobierno define que eso es importante.
They're condemning us to be the next sacrificed region. The government owes us. If the government decides this is important for the development of the province, then the government will go ahead with it. They're giving it to this company, GEMSA, as if they were the owners. When did they ever consult with the communities? These territories are inhabited by our ancestors, and we are going to defend them the way we want to. We're going to be here until the companies are evicted, until they leave. We're going to the extreme of let's cash in on this to save the other thing. But for whom? We're talking about humanity itself.
So that was it. Clemente, yes. So Clemente, welcome. It was a very nice to see you in that documentary. So Clemente, I just want to make sure that Clemente is here with us. Okay, Clemente, can you hear us? ¿Nos puedes escuchar, Clemente? I just want to make sure that, because, you know, he's having some, yeah, okay, ahí está. Hola, Clemente. Okay, Clemente, so welcome.
Hola, buenas tardes. ¿Me escuchas? ¿Me escuchas?
Buenas tardes. Hola, Clemente.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? And so that you can hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Hello?
Te escuchamos.
Yes, we can hear you.
So Clemente,
Clemente.
you are part of
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes, Clemente. So before we
start, Clemente, I'm going to say something in English.
Speaking
So
I just wanted to make sure to tell everyone that the following two presentations are going to be in Spanish. So if you need English or French interpretation, just make sure to click the little globe icon at the bottom of your screen, and then you'll have access to French and English simultaneous interpretation. So I just wanted to introduce Clemente because I haven't. So Clemente is joining us from northwestern Argentina, and he's part of the indigenous community of El Angosto and a spokesperson of the Mesa de Pueblos Originarios de la Cuenca de la Laguna Guayatayoc y Salinas Grandes. Clemente, so I was saying that it was really nice to see you in that documentary, and I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the struggle that the La Mesa de los Pueblos de la Laguna de Guayatayoc is going through in order to protect the territory, and why it's so important for you to oppose lithium mining in Salinas Grandes. Clemente, ¿escuchaste la traducción?
Clemente, did you hear the translation?
Clemente?
Clemente?
This is what happens when you are live. So,
you can hear us?
Puedes, adelante.
So you can start. He is a representative of the Mesa de Pueblos Originarios de la Cuenca de la Laguna de Guayatayoc en Salinas Grandes.
Bien, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Sí, dale.
I can introduce myself? Go right ahead. I don't know whether you can put on the camera as well.
¿Apago la cámara?
Sí, dale. Perfecto.
Okay, go right ahead. You can.
¿Comienzo?
Sí.
So should I start?
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Clemente
Good
Flores.
afternoon. My name is Clemente Flores. I live in the southern Angosto and Cucuy in Argentina. La Cuenca de Salinas Grandes and the Lake of Guayatayoc. I spent a lot of time would have been dedicated to defending from different types of investments, and so the lake of so that we are defending the territory, particularly on the subject of water, which is so that we've been gone through various communities, and so that there's now active lithium mining and the. I'm afraid the sound is gone. And different occasions, they have displaced their communities in order to be able to mine lithium. We have been trying to defending the territory, which is very important for our communities. And so that we didn't know how to defend that and to see that how possible this was. And so that we've been working in different levels and different types of readings to bring all the communities together to condemn what is going on. And we also been working in terms of micro aid in the defense of the territory.
Okay, gracias, Clemente.
Thank you, Clemente.
So maybe if you can tell us a little bit more about the importance of the reasons why you oppose lithium mining in Salinas Grandes, the reasons why it's so important for you to organize and mobilize as indigenous communities against the impacts of this sort of mining. Clemente, me quiero asegurar de que cuando yo hablo en inglés.
I want to make sure when I'm speaking English, can you hear me the Spanish translation? Can you hear the translation?
Sí, trato de que se tradució.
The interpreter apologizes, but the sound is cutting in and out.
No escuchas nada. Bueno, entonces de pronto si nos puedes hablar en este momento.
So that you can keep talking right now on the struggle that you are carrying out in the method, the basin of Guayatayoc and the Gran Salinas, what you're carrying out now is struggles.
I think we're having some
De la Laguna de Guayatayoc son 33 comunidades. La Laguna de Guayatayoc de Jujuy estamos.
The Guayatayoc Lake and the basin is, and there are 23 communities within working with the basin, and they were trying to keep up with what is going. I'm afraid that so there's inhabitable zones that have very little water available. And so that, so how people adapt and how they organize, and so that we can defend the life in these regions, and so that there are kinds of different health problems, and so that we organize assistance to the communities, and so that we are defending it and taking care of these people, because our people live in these places. And so they come in and they mine the water in order to extract the lithium, and so that we don't want to see what is going currently in the communities, and so this is causing great concern. So that many people are opposed to the lithium extraction.
Okay, thank you so much, Clement. And I think that you make a really good point, right? That it's not so much about against lithium or mining, but it's more about the protection of water resources and water, because as you just said, water is life, right? Thank you so much, Clemente. I'm not sure if you would like to add something else, or maybe we can continue later on during the Q&A.
También estos últimos tiempos.
Over the last while, after the pandemic, there have been a number of more companies that are roaming the territory, and without actually consulting, without involving the communities. And so that we see that the police state, and so that has many forms of subduing the population and imposing what they want to do. And this is something that we find very difficult, and so that unfortunately there's political power is very involved, and some people have come back, so that in spite of the opposition of the communities.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Clemente. Thank you for those words. And I think we're gonna come back to you during the Q&A. I'm pretty sure that our audience have plenty of questions for you. And actually, in that regard, I would like to remind everyone that you can post your questions in the Q&A, and that we're gonna get back to those questions in a few minutes. But before we do that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, and our next and actually last speaker, who is Sara Gomez Honores. She's the spokesperson of Putaendo Resiste. This is an environmental, social, and cultural group from Putaendo, Chile, that opposes the Canadian mining company Los Andes Copper and its Las Vizcachitas project in the Aconcagua Valley. But before joining Sara, and before her telling us about the wonderful work that they do in Putaendo in order to raise awareness, we would like to show you a very short video that they have created. So take a look.
¿Sabías que Putaendo, el primer pueblo libre de Chile, hoy se encuentra amenazado por el proyecto minero Vizcachitas Holding, que pretende construir una mina a rajo abierto? Este proyecto es de gran envergadura y dejaría sin agua nuestro valle, ya que se ubicaría justo en el centro del río Rocín, que alimenta el agotado río Putaendo, devastando la agricultura local, la ganadería y el rico patrimonio natural y humano de Putaendo. En nuestros valles se han identificado más de 1.300 petroglifos de senderos del Inca y Pucarás. Fuimos el primer pueblo libre de Chile, porque por aquí ingresó el grueso del ejército de los Andes, ruta que el gobierno argentino ha solicitado sea declarada Patrimonio de la Humanidad por la UNESCO. Heredamos una rica arquitectura patrimonial, donde destacan los corrales del Chalaco, que son monumento histórico nacional, y nuestra comuna declarada como zona de interés. Putaendo es epicentro de una dinámica actividad cultural, con el carnaval más largo de Chile, encuentros de payadores, componedoras de huesos y bailes chinos. La cordillera de Putaendo se encuentra en un estado excepcional, casi salvaje. Es un extenso territorio que da origen a múltiples cuencas andinas que nacen de numerosos glaciares de roca. Estas montañas son el hábitat natural de pumas, cóndores, gatos andinos y guanacos que pastorean sobre increíbles bofedales altoandinos. Esta cordillera se ha descrito como el límite norte y sur de al menos 21 especies de plantas, pues se encuentra en una zona de transición climática entre la árida del desierto de Atacama y la mediterránea del Chile central, propiciando la existencia de abundante flora y fauna nativa. Putaendo es el único valle de la zona central sin gran minería, y así queremos que se mantenga. La empresa canadiense, los Andes Cooper, y las autoridades estatales
Cooper and the state authorities have the opportunity to stop this mining cutting. We don't want to be responsible for the destruction of the only source of right now, the Putaendo Valley, and of the life of a whole people. And so without water, everything else loses its value. We don't want to be the next sacrifice zone. We want a Putaendo without mining. Creative team. We thank
Sarah, welcome. That was a great video, very creative. I love it. Thank you so much. And I think that you really get a sense of what is at stake, right? So in that sense, can you tell us a little bit more about why Putaendo wants to remain the only city or municipality without mega mining?
Bueno, hola, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, Putaendo doesn't want to be, we don't want to become another sacrifice areas. There's so many of it throughout Chile, in the north, because of mining or because of hydroelectric, or there's all kinds of factors that influence these sacrifice zones. And so we mainly want to, Putaendo is resisting, Putaendo Resiste is an environmental organization, and so that for this, I've been involved with protecting the water for over 28 years, and so that I'm part of it. I've been in their meetings for many years, and we continue to participate with them because we thought it was essential to provide my experience as a leader of the water. So it's the water for human consumption, which is in danger, as well as for agriculture. So that, first of all, there was, the community, because of different demonstrations, they were carried out through Putaendo Resiste, along with many other organizations that all agreed to demonstrate against, and just recently there was a citizens participation where we all of the members having been in the Congress and in the municipality for the region, and so that to end this, and so that wasn't positive for the Putaendo territory. And the mining camp is already installed, and the actual the valley of the river, and so the only source of fresh water for the community, be it for small scale agriculture or large scale agriculture, it is the only freshwater source for human consumption. Entonces, it also, there are 7 drinking water committees, really 5 of us that deal with superficial discharge. We're at the basis of the mountain range, and we will undoubtedly be impacted by this mining project. And so that the authorities, the current ones and the future ones, they have not taken us into account at all. They don't care. We talk about these 5 committees. They're talking about this off flatlands. So not talking about water in depth, but it's 5,000 people that will be exposed during those 365 days a year. Will be exposed so that the source of water for human consumption could be contaminated with some spill of fuel or minerals or some landslide that could occur. And so there will always be with the danger that latent, so that our water could be contaminated. Many things that are very absurd that we've been seeing going on over time.
For example, we are told about GDP, and we're told that this is what Chile lives off. But if you actually look into it, it's from about 5 to 10%, approximately 10% of the GDP of Chile comes from mining. It's not actually that much. They say that it is the base, the foundation of all of the state's social programs. They have to look at, where they're going to get the money from, but they can't do it. They say, but in truth, what's happening is they're sacrificing communities in order to get this money to then pay for social causes. So it doesn't make any sense. Here in the Putaendo Valley, the mining company, Vizcachitas, tells the community that they will bring in a lot of jobs. There is information on the internet, and it turns out that it's 1.3% what they are bringing in terms of job creation for the general population. It's not actually very much at all. These jobs provided by mining companies are almost negligible if you look at it carefully. But, of course, they also bring all kinds of negative impacts in terms of human health. Most people who work for mining companies end up with extreme stress. They have to work for 12 hours a day. They can work up to 7 days a week, and then they have 7 days off, they say, but it depends entirely on where they actually are working. Because if somebody from the 5th region goes to work in the 4th or to the 2nd region of Chile, well, then they have to travel, and that takes up a whole lot of their time off. And it also brings a lot of stress. This fact that people have to travel around causes a lot of stress, and the way that they work is very controlled. They use GPS a lot of the time. These heavy trucks that they're driving, it has to be very clearly scheduled, and they are penalized if they go astray in any way whatsoever. So it's very difficult and stressful work, and people are underinformed about what these jobs bring. They're not as great as the mining company would have people believe. We've heard also from the other speakers this evening that, of course, there are all of these health problems that come with mining projects. It's not just the people working for them, but also the people who are close to these places of work. Illnesses caused by pollution, by sound pollution also. You know, the eyesores that are created and the effect that that has on people's quality of life, live in those regions. People are not you know, it's not like they're left not affected by these major changes in their environment. All of these negative aspects that, you know, people, when they're just trying to get a good job, that's all they want, they end up giving away their life. They think that they might be supported by this mining company for the rest of their life, but this is not the case. If they end up getting into an accident, probably the company will look for a replacement. They'll come to a certain compromise and give them a certain amount of money, and that's it. They just completely forget that the person ever worked for that mining company at all. Sarah has just been reminded that she's got 1 minute left. Water is what is always going to be at risk, and that is what we have always fought for. There are many people that want mining, and there are people that don't support them. But for the most part, society is very divided. People in the region specifically, some of them want it, and others, you know, in equal numbers. We are trying to share this information with the people who want mining. We're trying to teach them about the risks that come with water contamination and the risks that come with working for mining companies. There is no green mining in Chile. There are many falsehoods that are being spread. So why is Chile investing so much in mining? Well, it's because there aren't a lot of taxes to pay. It's an easy way to bring in money. You know, they produce tons and tons of copper. If they produce a certain amount, they don't have to pay for taxes, and then the foreign investors come and to work in Chile. So that's why there's this draw. All these people want to come to Chile to mine because it's very easy to get into this country as a mining company. However, the cost that is being ignored is the human cost, the environmental cost. And at some point, we are going to end up paying this cost. I think that what we need to be doing is standing up to these mining companies so that they do not pollute the water. And we need to make sure that, you know, for our own healthcare system, of course, we need a constant supply of clean water. And so I think that there is a huge contradiction in Chile when you look at that particular aspect here in Putaendo and in Chile in general.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you so much. And I think that this is something very important to make visible, right? The human and social and environmental cost of supposedly green mining, right? So thank you so much for that. It was extremely clear. So thank you. So I think that now we're gonna move on. Gracias. We're gonna move on
Thank
now.
you.
It's gonna be a very, we're gonna go right to the point because we know that we're running out of time, but we really want to have this space. So I have a question to start. And this is a question for everyone, to all our panelists, May, Gary, Sarah. I think Clemente had to go because of bad connection. But the question is, if you know which banks or who is financing these projects. I think you already touched a little bit on this, but if any one of you would like to make a comment.
Can you say the question again, please?
Like, there's a question, this is actually in Spanish, and the question is, who is funding these mining projects? Where is the money coming from?
From my understanding, this lithium mining project in Thacker Pass has investors from Canada. It's actually we're up against Lithium Nevada. Lithium America is a bigger company, I believe, and they come from Canada.
If I may add, it's Dmitri from Coalition des opposants projet minier en Haute-Matawinie. In the case of Nouveau Graphite, the financing came originally from the government of Quebec via its investment vehicle, Investissement Quebec, followed up by a group of investors who are essentially registered in an evasion fiscal paradise, offshore zone. And they are right now, the Bellinghurst Group, the major investor of the company. So it's unclear, it's really unclear where and what kind of money are financing this type of projects. And in fact, this raises a lot of questions about the proper governance of the company and other projects associated with the same investor group, such as Namaska Lithium.
Thank you, Dmitri. Sara?
Sí, efectivamente, por ejemplo, acá
And the project on our territory in Canada, I have the major investors, and they're the ones that are making all the investments. And there's also major operators in Chile, for example, BBH3, Anglo America, Codelco. And so besides a number of smaller mining companies that are not as present, but they're the ones that make the investments.
y les conviene porque en el fondo ellos
are to their advantage because they pay very little, and so that Chile doesn't get much. So it's very convenient to make this type of investments in Chile.
Thank you, Sarah. And actually, I think we're gonna stay with you. There's another one for Sarah. And this is, as there are, the presidential elections are coming up. And so someone asked, what's the position of Putaendo Resiste in regards to the upcoming election, in regards to the protection of water, the environment. And, we know, as you already mentioned, that the government is very pro-mining, so.
Extractismo de la minería. We, can I say the name? Well, I'm not going to carry a political campaign, but of course we're informed of bodies, and in all forms, the other person who is a candidate, I think that things have been bad up until now on the environment area. I think there's a lot that we could talk about, but in this moment we can't do that. But I think it would be even worse if the other person is elected, the one who has a majority in this. I think that we have to be visionaries and see what is good for Chile in general. It's now, are we the ones that are being impacted in our territory with the mine companies and with all the deposits, but I think throughout Chile, I own a project for photovoltaic, which also causes all kinds of problems because it's cleaner energy, but they're doing this in places that are not appropriate and where there's a human price to pay. So that I disagree with these government decisions.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. I think I'm gonna give the I'm gonna pass to Hugo.
Oh yes, thank you, Viviana. Today we had two questions raised from journalists that are interested on this issue. One of the question was, considering that we need to move away from oil and gas to for the energy transition and the need for minerals for batteries and wind and solar, how are we supposed to go forward to, so basically the question was, you know, are there some places where it can be mined safely or not? So that's the question for all of you. I don't know how you handle this question in your own regions.
Yeah, this is Gary, Thacker Pass. With that transition, I believe that we we don't really need to be trying to solve one mistake for another. So when we think about these other areas that need mining, that, you know, I shouldn't say need mining, but if there was another area that was projected at being mined, it would be another community that would be feeling the pain, going through the hurt. It would be another community. So, you know, it's one of those things, you know, it's happening in our backyard. It's not always, you know, it shouldn't always be left up to the people in those jobs to decide for, you know, our livelihoods.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. Any other want to add to this, Sarah or Dmitri or John? We also have John Hatter there.
Yeah, I'll let John speak. I think he wanted to add something.
I'll just speak briefly. We're also in Nevada working on the Thacker Pass area as well, but this is a common problem. The different mines use different techniques in Thacker Pass. It's a clay deposit which would use a sulfuric acid leaching method. Other processes use a heat and other chemical techniques. The ones down in Chile and Bolivia we're hearing about, we're talking about water use. And so it's hard to find kind of responsible approach. The really only responsible approach is the one that's acceptable to the communities that are affected. In terms of the other piece of the question is also, it's important to keep in mind that there are things that we can be doing to minimize the demand so that we don't have this enormous pressure that's on frontline communities. Particularly in the United States, our transportation system is enormously inefficient in terms of how many people are occupying single occupancy vehicles. And we saw during COVID, enormous decrease in greenhouse gas emissions from transportation sector. So I think the commitment has to be to think about a more transformative process in our societies, not just about where do we get the next, where's the next gold mine, so to speak. So that's part of what we're working on as well. I just wanted to kind of put that out there also, that we have to look to other means besides extraction. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John. And if we could add, you know, we do witness at Mining Watch Canada in a Quebec or Canadian context that there are nations that have agreed, First Nations that have agreed to some lithium mines or nickel mines, but others that squarely opposed to it. So I guess part of the answer depends on the communities and the lands and that are affected. There's also in the chat box, there's a number of folks, thank you for all your sharing, that have yes to life, no to mining, have shared some so-called red lines, go, no go projects. My last question that I have, and it's a tricky question, and it's for Mariana, Yannick, and the whole research team of the EG Atlas for this particular project. The journalist asked, of all the 25 cases that you've researched and documented, which ones were the worst cases? So I know it's a tricky question, but the journalist had in mind, I'm just sharing her question, you know, given that we consume most of those minerals in the north, in the global north, Europe, North America, isn't it better that we mine it here than in the south? It's a tricky question, so I'll let Mariana or Yannick, maybe as researchers that have interacted with 25 cases. Today we had 4 featured, but there's more cases. So Mariana.
Thank you, Hugo. First, to invite everybody to check the report, because we actually highlight for some of the main grievances and impacts, what are the cases that better illustrate some of these. Because I wouldn't dare to say which one is the most affected one, but you have some that are very violent against communities with very strong criminalization and police violence. For instance, you have others when you see that what's put at risk is really, really important ecosystems to regulate the climate or to regulate the water, or large questions about how some projects and the sum of projects in some areas like the salares, the salt lands, are only not affecting the specific place of the project, but the addition of all these projects are putting in danger the full watersheds, complete ecosystems. So it's not about the individual projects, but it's the sum of all these projects that really putting at risk communities, but really actually the full ecosystems and the climate itself. We are putting at risk with mining and deforestation related to mining the Amazons, glaciers, water sources. So it's about the big picture, not only the individual projects that also matter, of course. So I would invite to broaden the scale at which we are looking at the problem beyond the specific struggles. This is also the intention of mapping, to also show these overlaps with the areas of water scarcities, ecosystems, biodiversity hotspots. All of this is put at risk. And it's not only about us humans, it's about the nature more broadly. So, and I would also, regarding the previous question, the community speaking to us today, culture, of course, worldviews, full societies are put at risk. And these are also reflected in the map and in the report. But I also say that what we are also showing in the report is that these communities that are struggling against the expansion of mining had actually a very marginal role in actually creating the climate change that now is fostering these policies for energy transition. So we are here, this is a full issue of justice as well, that we are not addressing correctly with the questions we sometimes make. So I would also raise the question of, is this an energy transition we want? For what? For who? Do we want to really mine lithium for individual electric cars? Should we asking about consumption in the global north, about the type of transportation we want? So I think we need to go back to these broad questions about consumption, energy consumption, transportation, ways of living, diversity of ways of developing our lives, our views. So I maybe would like to finish with this broadening up of our approach to these issues, and also say that we are looking at mining here, but there's also renewables conflicts exploding everywhere in the global south, but also in the global north. So I think if we look at the broader picture, we are really facing a global, not only extractive crisis, but also a massive land use crisis, social crisis, human rights crisis, that we actually, I don't think it will be possible to mine all the metals they are needed. So I think we will be faced with these questions very soon. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariana. We're now going to close this session very soon. I would like to invite all of our panelists to turn on their cameras. We'll say one last word before saying goodbye to our audience, and reminding also our panelists that we have another online social gathering after this one on a separate link that we'll send you by email. But maybe if you could keep it short, in 30 seconds, we'll go a last round table. What would be your final words for tonight that you would like to share with the audience? Some in the audience are solidarity people that want to support you. Some in the audience are government people that are listening to you. And some in the audience are industry people too. So who wants to start? Maybe we could do the same order we started, maybe with Dmitri and May for your case, and then we'll go to Gary and Clemente. I see he's not there, but Sarah after. So go ahead, Dmitri and May, your last few second word.
Yeah, thanks for the webinar. Great panelists. Just maybe the final conclusion from my side, at least. Everyone who hears us today, just next time you see an ad or you're going shopping for a new laptop, new phone, new Tesla, if you already have one, just think about it. Look at the videos again that we showed you, and think what it costs to us. And that's all I'm asking you to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmitri. May?
Un message que nous pourrions envoyer.
The message that we could use and send to the government, that we could send to the government, is to respect the voices of the citizens when they are expressed, to take into account their concerns, to do things in such a way that we control the mining industry and not to destroy the delicate areas, places that are totally incompatible with mining activities. We are living through a drama. There are citizens that have mental health problems because of the installations that are present. The environment is going to suffer. We don't say we are a jewel for ecotourism, and we are basically disrespecting this jewel to have supposedly sustainable economy, and that's not true. We're destroying. Rather, there are other ways to reach our ends, that we could have conditions for better ways of modernizing transport. So this is my message directly for the government.
Merci, May. Thank you, May. Gary?
Gary.
It's been a real pleasure to be sitting here with everybody. Thank you all who attended, the participants, the panelists. Yeah, out here, we're descendants of important people to our history. What we are doing out here is fighting and protecting for our people and our ancestors. We're speaking out. We're honoring our ancestors' wishes. We're part of that prayer. We're totally nonviolent. We're approaching this in a prayerful way, pro-people, pro-environment, the real stewards of the land, throwing a protection blanket over our resources, our water and our air. We're still struggling for, in the court system kind of way, but we're not going to give up. We're still here. We're going to remain here, and we plan we plan to continue to utilize our land with our ceremonies, our gatherings. We're going to continue to teach our youngsters, our little ones, our children. It's for the kids. Our main purpose for fighting these destruction on our land is for our kids, for our future. They're our future, and it's really if we show them how to take care of our land, how to care for one another as human beings, we're going to be in good shape in 40 to 50 years. And we don't have enough experience to say otherwise, but we do know that if we work together and we continue to work together, we can make this change. And it's good, beautiful change. And it's happening in all of our countries. And so everybody out there that's listening, you know, and if your communities are going through some struggles right now, keep your head up, keep fighting, keep doing what you're doing for the people, for our little ones. Keep up that fight. You're doing good. We're all doing good. You know, we're doing that honor. I'm proud of each and every one of us. Let's keep it up. Aho.
Thank you, Ho. John Hatter, who works closely with Gary and others in Nevada.
One thing I'd just say is that in addition to what's already been said, is that in the case of Thacker Pass, what we saw was a very rushed process, a very poor environmental review, and this would set a very dangerous precedent for the mining future. We have to stand up against these projects that are poorly conceived and do not have community consent. Otherwise, we're looking at potentially what I would see another generation of unnecessarily destructive mining, and perhaps even poorer practices than we see today. So it's important to stand up.
Thank you, John. I think we're moving to Sarah now because Clemente is not there, right? Correct, Viviana? So Sarah, your last words.
Bueno, sí, a mí no me cabe duda con todo.
There's no doubt for me that with all the experiences that have been shared today that have been very enriching for all of us, those of us who are environmentalists, we've been able to see how people live, and we've been thinking about how our children and grandchildren are going to be living. Well, I am committed to this fight. I'm going to continue supporting all of these organizations that are numerous here in the Putayendo Valley. We're going to continue fighting against this invasion that mining companies are doing here in our communities. We want for our governments to, at the very least, stop the processes that have already been started. And we want to look carefully, we want the governments to look carefully at what these mineral deposits can bring to the local communities, and in terms of, both the good and bad. We need to place more value on human life and defend the land where we live. There are people that have been here their entire lives. For me, it's not the case, but I have been here for a long time and I love this land. And the other conclusion that I came to, which is perhaps very simple, but it's just that I have seen that this issue is not just here in Chile, it's everywhere. Mining is causing environmental and social conflicts all around the world, and they are very deep and very significant conflicts. And so I think all of us need to be united and we need to fight together because it is for the survival of humanity. We need to make sure that we save water sources so that no community is without safe water. And this is for rural regions here in Chile, where we want to make sure that we have schools and healthcare for these rural peoples here specifically. We need to make sure that rural peoples have the same rights as those living in the cities. We have schools and kindergartens and all of these different resources because there is clean water, and without it we would lose all of this. So we need to raise awareness about the resources that we need in order to keep this alive. So we need to not just cross our arms and give up, we need to continue. That's all I wanted to add as a conclusion.
Gracias. Gracias, Sara. Merci.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yannick, and then Mariana, your last words. Go ahead, Yannick.
Pues ante que todo, gracias a todos.
So first of all, thank you to everyone who came to listen to us. And thank you to May, Dmitri, John, Gary, Sarah, and Clemente for their talks. I think that it is from the words that they shared that we can see this contradiction in the world today. So we are asking these questions now about whose hands is this in? Whose hands is the power in? Who is this for? What is it for? So we've looked at this technological transformation in a much deeper way. There are things that need to be rectified, and we've looked into that. If we are sacrificing villages and lands, well, we need to look carefully at that. Should we be sacrificing this dominant model that we are working within right now instead? I think that the documenting the cases, well, we in the past have looked generally at what is happening in the global north, in Canada, in Europe, and people were not necessarily looking at the global south and all of the issues of corruption there. People have often thought there's no way to control it, even though supposedly there are countries where there is more environmental regulation. Well, we realize that things are overlooked in some cases, and the impacts are not being managed properly. And there have been these aggressive measures of doing things in all parts of the world this whole time. So we need to look at what kind of activities we need and what helps society rather than the markets. We are looking at this hegemonic energy transition, and we need to be sure to show that there are other possibilities. This isn't the only route that we can take. There are also democratic grassroots options. There are many different types of initiatives. We need to focus on the fact that there isn't just one technological path to take. So I think this is something that needs to be discussed, and it requires work on many different levels. I think that there are a lot of gaps that we need to shed light on so that we can counteract all of these problems that we are facing.
Thank you, Yannick. And Mariana, your closing words for tonight?
No, will be short. Acabaré en castellano, mareando a los traductores. Primero agradecer a todas y todos.
First of all, I would like to thank all of the panelists who have not just been participating today, but over the course of several months now. And you can see the results of their work in the Environmental Justice Atlas. And then I would also like to thank all of the participants that have been here for 2 hours, and there are many of you. I would like to finish with an invitation. I want to invite all of you to participate in this mapping process in North America, but also on a global level. So all of these projects around mining and other types of conflicts that we need to be following. Of course, 25 cases or approximately 40 in the interactive map are just a very small sample of the conflicts that are currently underway and getting worse. And of course, there will be new ones over the coming months. So I wanted to end on that invitation. This atlas is seeking to expand the mapping process. And we want to do this collaboratively, continue to be collaborative in this work in Latin America and elsewhere in the world. So if you would like to be part of this process, you are extremely welcome. And thank you very much. And we also invite you to consult the report that is in Spanish and will soon be in English. And the interactive map is already in several languages. And as we mentioned, things will be updated over the coming months. Thank you very much to Mining Watch Canada for facilitating today and for sharing all the PowerPoints and the videos and organizing everything. I'd also like to thank the interpreters who have had a difficult job today with so many different languages. And I think that it's been wonderful to give people the opportunity to express themselves in their native language. So we're grateful to have had this opportunity. We know that logistically it can be difficult, but that is a really wonderful thing. This, you know, accepting diversity in this way and making sure that we allow people of different backgrounds to join in. So thank you, Hugo and Viviana, and to the interpreters once again. And we hope to be able to share the video with you soon so that you can see, you can watch this webinar once again calmly on your own time. Thank you.
Gracias, Mariana.
Thank you, Mariana.
It's probably close to midnight where you are now. So a well-deserved end of night for you. Viviana, you want to share some last thoughts for tonight so we can close the meeting?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say in 20 seconds that at the end of the day, to summarize, at least how I see it, is that this is all about water. This is all about protecting life. And as you know, as May rightly put it in her presentation, this is just about distracting these resources, distracting life, trying to distract water. And I really like the concept of sustainable distraction, because this is what this is all about. So water, protecting life, and protecting water. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of the panelists for being here with us and being so clear. And yeah, thank you for being with us and for this initiative, for being part of the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Viviana. And I'm just going to thank Val and the whole technical team behind the scene and the whole Mining Watch Canada team and everyone that joined us. I will also thank the spirits, actual and past, ancestors and future generations that are not here today, but we should all be thinking of them past and forward. So thank you all and have a good night and keep up the good work. Bye-bye.